A basketball coach was diagnosed with cancer 2 weeks before a conference tournament. And as she sat in the doctor's office, this was the first question she asked herself. Is this treatment designed to save my season or my life? This was the second question. How will people use this against me in recruiting? Which shows what? How consuming this can be. The next question she asked is, how do I make this about my team and not me? So we talked to the team. They committed to keeping it tight. They have their best finish in her tenure. And after the season, she's forced to confront a choice. I could try and do both, or I can focus on my health. What seems like an obvious choice to most isn't so obvious. What do you think she chose? To do both, like most coaches would. There's a great coaching line. If youth knew, if age could. And it shows that oftentimes we're bad at predicting what our future selves actually want, because we're in a tug of war between short-term gain and long-term investment. It's like a moth to a flame. We are attracted to things that kill us, and it usually starts with our family. Another coach I was working with was on the list for the Kentucky men's basketball job. And he asked me to put together a pros and cons list. Here were the pros. Best school, conference commissioner with a stable AD. They're the cons. It's all the time. There's no anonymity. I show it to him. Guess what he says? I think you got to listen, right? What does that show us? The bright lights disrupt our navigational systems. He stays put. But here's the spectacle for the coach who takes that job. 22,000 people show up to Rupp Arena. Now, what's interesting is the previous two coaches who were not fired and left that machine voluntarily were John Calipari, who went to Arkansas, Tubby Smith. Both went to lesser schools. Now, when John was in Kentucky, he sat down with a local news reporter. Take a listen.
How important has Ellen been to your success on and off the court?
Do you want my opinion or hers?
I want yours first.
Well, the biggest part of this is that when you're in the business I'm in and you have to spend time at the business or you can't succeed, you have to have a partner who gets it.
Gets what? That the world is going to revolve around you. How many times have you heard coaches say something like this? My spouse knew what they were signing up for. We rationalize things and then we get drunk on our rationalizations and we miss the obvious. What's the obvious? That the people that we're leading are learning from us and they're seeing more with their eyes than they're hearing with their ears. I was working with a NBA rookie who's fairly anonymous, and he was telling me about a conversation that he had with a Hall of Famer. The Hall of Famer says, I would trade you spots in a heartbeat. The rookie would do it. I asked him why. Because the Hall of Famer's been in both spots, and he's saying, your spot is better. Guess what the rookie says? You want to taste it for yourself. And it reminds me of a child that's been given a taste for drugs, that as you grow up, the only relief that you get is from that drug. And to walk away from that requires pain, withdrawal, so much so that very few people do it. We've been given that drug since we were young. What are the first two questions athletes get asked after a game? This is for basketball. Did you win? How many points did you score? What does that show us? What society values. And when we ask athletes, how does society view your success as an athlete? Take a look at the top 5 answers that they have. Any of those surprise you? What's now making its way onto that list is money. Why? Because of NIL. And in some cases, athletes aren't even going over to the academic side of campus. They're just told what their number is. And so if you think about that from a college coaching perspective, a lot of those guys and gals will manipulate young athletes with materialism. Want to show you a visit at the University of Texas. So you see luxury cars roaring their engines lined up. You're going to see photography You're going to see red carpet. You're going to see the football coach. Look at what the sign says above. Hook 'em. That's metaphorical, right? We're trying to use material possessions to attract people because that's what they're conditioned to believe what success looks like. And if you think about coaches, they start to do things and participate in the system that they never thought that they would do. Why? Because they're fearful that if they don't, they won't get the things that they need to survive. So fear runs their life, not purpose. And if you think about these two concepts, just a show of hands in here, how many of you heard transactional versus transformation coaching? Here's what's interesting about this. I think there's a difference between transactional and manipulating with materialism. The best coaches I'm around are actually very transactional, but they define it differently. They look at it as adding value to someone's livelihood. The interesting thing about the transformational experience is you actually don't get to decide whether or not it's a transformative experience. Who does? They do. And one thing to guarantee it's not is that you don't do what you say you are going to do. So you have to uphold your part of the transaction to give it a shot to be transformative. How do you do that? We ask athletes this question. Here are the top 10 answers that they give when we ask what's important to you about life in general. And if we take the top 5 of what they say and we stack that against society's scorecard, how do you think about that? That's what we ask them. Most common answer? Not a lot in common. Which shows that if you appeal to the values, that you can give a chance for a transformative experience. But the higher they go, everyone around them gets drunk on the left side of this card. So there's a great question Dr. Jim Lair asked. He said, what if I gave you $50 million and you were judged on how much the character of your team improved versus wins and losses? How would your behavior change? I asked SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey that exact question. Where did Greg start in the SEC? Compliance. Regulating that league is literally impossible. Take a listen at how he answers that.
I think here's the reality. Just like we've had with performance-enhancing drugs, you have people that try to cheat the test, which speaks to the base level of building character, right?
And when adults become obsessed with achievements, what happens? Athletes do too. Why? Because they're learning from us. And there's a great experiment. It was called the Goldman Dilemma. Take a look at this.
If I was able to give you a pill that all of your aspirations and dreams as an athlete would come true, it's illegal. But I can tell you for sure you will not get caught. There's only one downside to taking the pill. You will die in 5 years as a consequence of the drug intake. What do you think the percentage of folks, of athletes, elite athletes that would take that deal? What do you think? Every single year it was over 50%. 50% to become a star, they would cheat and they would die in 5 years because somehow they've been hoodwinked, indoctrinated into believing that athletic achievement will bring all the greatness that they could possibly imagine, and it's worth it. It's worth dying for. What the heck have we done?
And if you want a good team building exercise, you can present that to your team and just ask them, make the case, why would someone take the pill? Why would someone not take the pill? Just to hear their perception. I learned about this at the University of Florida when we found out that out of all the national championship coaches, 80% of them experience depression after winning. And it reinforces the thought, what? Give someone everything they thought they wanted and watch how confused they become. A pro athlete signed a max contract, scrolled across the bottom of the screen, DMs, text, flooded. He was really confused. I asked him to write a letter to the max contract as if it were a person. Here's how he started his letter. Do people like me or do they like you? I guess I'll never know. What does that show us? How important it is to have people in our life that can anchor us into a strong reality. One of my favorite questions that Jim Lehrer asks is, who are you becoming as a result of the chase? So many high performers that I work with acknowledge that they're becoming a lesser version of themselves because of the competitive complexity. I'd like to show you how that happens and how easy it is to get drunk on your ego. This is at UConn. This is when College Game Day went there. Look at the first row. Look at the artificial stimulant. Look at the cues that you're being shown every single day, that you are important. It is easy to consume them. So let's fast forward to the end of the year. This is moments after winning the national championship. Take a listen.
Coach Dan Hurley, it's obvious to me you love the view from up here 2 years in a row.
Yeah, man. Kind of getting used to this up here, and the confetti, the trophy. Number 6, baby! Number 6! Jersey City!
Okay, so what's the significance? Number 6 is what? How many championships UConn has won? What's the significance of Jersey City? That's where he's from. That's not where the school is. Who's he making it about? Himself. Who is he not making it about? The team. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, does the system attract or create this? Or both? Think about what you preach as a coach. How can you say nobody's more important than the team when your name is on the court and outside the gymnasium? Again, it is so easy to take the drinks when they're making it about you. And when you say yes to one thing, you say no to another, which makes us ask this question. And how do we not lose ourselves inside that system? So I want to show you something. This is something very similar to what you just saw. This is Steve Kerr, right after they won the NBA Finals. Take a listen.
4 championships, Steve, in the last 8 seasons with the same core guys. What does that say about this group?
Well, number one, it says that the guy who put together this group did an amazing job, and I like Bob Myers to be recognized. He never gets enough credit. Bob.
So when she hands him a drink to make it about himself, what does he do? He passes it to someone else. Now, the GM who put it together comes up.
Bob, it's not easy. It's not easy to repeat success, to keep everyone happy, to keep the gang together. Just how have you been able to do that with this team?
Well, you know, you didn't ask this, but I want to thank all our wives and kids. It is not easy supporting us all year long.
What's he do? He passes the drink. She goes back to Steve.
And I have one more for you, Steve. This is now your 9th ring. 9th ring. 5 as a player, 4 now as a coach. These journeys are always imperfectly perfect. Where do you rank this journey?
This might be the most unlikely one of all. But I've just been blessed. I hang around superstars. If you hang around superstars, good things happen. And that guy Curry, wherever he is, there he is right there. Go talk to him. He's the reason for all this.
So again, he passes the drink to NBA Finals MVP, Steph Curry. I want you to try and find Steve in this picture. Where is he? If you want to walk a different path, it takes a lot of unlearning. And one of the best tools I've seen for unlearning is the backward bicycle. Now, you guys can have a seat. She has no idea what's coming. You guys have no idea what's coming. Zack Sheets, come on out here real quick. This is amazing, and this was from a TED Talk. This is called a backwards bicycle, okay? So when you turn the handlebars to the left, it goes right. And when you turn them to the right, it goes left. Do you understand what that means? Okay? So
Don't tell me I have to ride that.
You're going to try it, okay? So I want you. Okay? So why don't you stop up on that? Zach's going to be on this side. Here's the goal. We saw this tape. It's perfect. It's a straight line, okay? So you hop on this.
I haven't rode a bike in forever.
Well, don't qualify it, okay? Now, remember, turn left. Which way does the wheel go?
This way.
Got it. Go the other way. Everyone see that, okay? So I want you to try and do it in a straight line.
Okay. This is hard.
Just try and go forward a little bit.
Brett.
All right. All right. Let's give it up for being such a good sport. So what can we learn from that? Knowing how to do something is one thing. Executing it's completely different. She's on a flat surface. We're asking her to go in a straight line 10 feet. Think about how much intentionality it would take to be able to go up and down a mountain. That's the intentionality it takes to find peace inside of high performance. I want you to think about a bar. Think about an alcoholic being dropped in a bar every single day, and everyone around them is trying to hand them drinks. What would prevent a recovering alcoholic from taking a drink if they went in that environment every single day? That's what it takes to do this in coaching and to find peace, because everyone is going to be drunk on emotion, results, status, and they're going to try and get you to drink with them. And one of my favorite quotes in coaching is this: success is intoxicating, but sustaining requires sobriety.